in which we like to take a closer look at something that happened in the Daf each week. And this week, the Gemara on Thursday's Daf and Chesem and Aleph, the Gemara discussed eggs of a Treifa chicken. It says a Treifa bird, we'll just call it chicken. The Gemara, a Maimer there, tells us the following. He says it depends. Depends on when exactly did the eggs form inside of the chicken. If they're already formed when the chicken became a Treifa, then the eggs, just like the chicken, are prohibited. But if they only formed after the chicken was a Treifa, then they're kosher. So what is the basis for this distinction? A Maimar explains that in the case when the eggs formed after the chicken was Treifa, we say the eggs are a product of two things, of the hen and the rooster. The hen is prohibited, but the rooster is permitted. It's called Zev Zegorem. A Maimar says by Zev Zegorem, the halach is the product of a prohibited and permitted source is permitted, it's kosher in that case. So why not say that even if the eggs formed before the chicken became Treifa? So there Rashi says that we have a principle of Uber Yerachima. Uber is an unborn fetus, here it's eggs. The idea is that the thing developing inside of the parent animal, the mother animal, is one entity with the mother. So automatically, if the mother's Treifa, automatically the unborn fetus, the eggs, are also Treifa. So the obvious problem is, alright, so if that principle applies, then that should apply regardless of when the eggs formed. Say they formed after the Treifa, say the same thing. The reality is that the chicken at that point, of course, is Treifa, so automatically the eggs growing within that are considered the same entity as the chicken should also be prohibited. So what is the Gemara's distinction here? That's the question of this video. For the answer, we look to the words of the Chazon Ish. It's in Yerdei Siman Yudal, in parentheses Beis, the second Siman Yudal there, right at the beginning. He takes up this question. Many Rashivas take up this question as well. Chazon Ish explains this in a fascinating way, and that's why I'd like to share it with you. The Chazon Ish starts by saying, let's consider a hypothetical situation where we have an animal that's definitely deemed Treifa. So we know what Treifa means. It means it's not going to live. It's inevitably going to die. But what if a miracle happened and it survived? It's better now. It's not going to die. What is the halacha in that situation? Chazon Ish proves from various sources that it's still not kosher. So how do we understand this? What do we have to say? We have to say that there's more to the law of Treifa than meets the eye. It's not just that if an animal has certain fatal defects, Hashem doesn't want us to eat that meat, and that's all there is to it. No, must be that there's like another step that really happens, which is that once an animal is deemed to be in the category of Treifa, a prohibition goes into effect on it, and the nature of that prohibition is it's permanent. It permanently applies to the animal no matter what happens in the future. Reminds me of the halacha we learned in Kachim, Zvachim Menachas, it came up of Dichoy, where the halacha is if an animal became disqualified, had some physical defect that couldn't be brought on the Mizbeach, even if that physical defect goes away, the halacha says it's permanently rejected from the Mizbeach. So a similar kind of idea here. Therefore, Chazon Ish here is basically rephrasing the question that we have to ask. The real question is not, we're not discussing, maybe the eggs are not going to live. It has a mortal, that's not the question. No, the eggs don't have the actual physical mortal defect. Rather, the question is that the same way that the Torah said about the chicken, that because she became Treifa, she's permanently prohibited, why doesn't that prohibition extend to the eggs? Again, especially because Rashi said they're halachically one with the mother. So now that we're phrasing the question that way, so let's consider what the halacha should be here with the eggs. Chazon Ish says you can make two arguments. You could argue to focus on the future outcome of the eggs, what will eventually happen with them, or you could focus on the present. Of course, the eggs, at least most times, they're bound to come out of the chicken. They're going to emerge. So maybe we should focus on that and therefore say that it's not logical that the eggs should be caught up in this prohibition that the Torah stated on the chicken. The eggs are going to emerge, so we factor that into the judgment right now, and we say it doesn't become branded as permanently prohibited. Right now, in the meantime, before they come out, fine, they're prohibited. Yeah, right now they're connected to the mother. But they don't actually get branded with the permanent treifa prohibition. That's one way to argue here. Or we can argue that we should focus on the present. The fact is that right now, the eggs are inside of this chicken. They're one with the chicken. And so just as the Torah brands the chicken as permanently prohibited, let that apply to the eggs too. That could also be a valid way to argue this case. So really there's validity to both arguments. Chazon Ish explains that we have in our Gemara, this distinction here is how Chazal balanced these two arguments. That is that Chazal said that to come to a final judgment on this, we have to ask ourselves, were the eggs there at the time when the prohibition was created? There's something significant about the moment of the prohibition's inception, which of course was when the chicken suffered whatever mortal injury defect it was. If the eggs were there at that time, so then already that supports the argument that, look, the eggs are here, they're inside the chicken, halachically it's part of the chicken, so all of it gets branded. Everything, the chicken, the eggs, all of it is branded with this permanent prohibition, as opposed to if the eggs only formed after the chicken became treifa, then it makes more sense to say that the eggs don't get that same decree, that same prohibition that the Torah pronounced on the mother, meaning to say that they should join along for the ride. The mother had this prohibition pronounced on her, so now the eggs are now here. They should join in this. They should jump onto the Isser and also become permanently prohibited. It's harder to make that argument. Right now they're prohibited. Yeah, they're part of the mother right now, but in this situation already we say the eggs are coming out, and therefore they don't really get, they're not really included in, the Torah wasn't saying about them as well that they're permanently prohibited, and therefore once the eggs come out, they're kosher. That's the way the Chazon Ish explains the Gemara's distinction here. So very, very enlightening, very fascinating explanation, which again we have this concept of, makes us think about the basic concept of treifa. The Chazon Ish tells us it's not just the danger, the fact that this animal will inevitably die, but that there's this new part that the Torah puts onto a treifa animal, that it becomes permanently prohibited. Hope you have found this Chazon Ish interesting, and we'll see you in the next video.